I want to talk a little bit about ESPN, the self-proclaimed worldwide leader in sports. I think that they're fumbling the ball right now, and I want to break down why. Context on this is, upon recording yesterday, they laid off my personal favorite NBA writer, actually my inspiration to even get into journalism, even end up here at Klue doing content, Zach Klue. He's one of the sharpest basketball minds, has a very nuanced take to basketball analysis and sports journalism in general. They laid him off. Heartbreaking for me.
And they do this during your birthday week, Adam.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. My basketball consumption has been completely overhauled ahead of the season. I'm choked. But this is also just like one casualty in what's been about 5 to 10 year trend of just letting more and more of their key personalities out the door. We've seen big names like Bill Simmons, Dan Le Batard, Jamel Hill, and there's so many others. I have to list up. There's like 50 others, big name folks that have built a devout audience out the door. And each time it feels like ESPN is starting to chip away at their foundation. So what's going on? Why are they doing this? And what's the competitive dynamics here? A couple of the things that I'm seeing from this ESPN and this sports media landscape is that ESPN had a monopoly. They're the worldwide leader in sports. That was their brand. And they're struggling to adapt to the new landscape of how people consume content, how they engage with others, and how to actually build a strong brand. So first component is TV rights. ESPN's built its empire on being the go-to place for live sports, and that has continued to be the case. Live sports always brings in viewers. But now there are big tech giants that are coming in and either forcing up the bidding price or stealing live sports TV rights from ESPN directly. So Amazon just took Thursday Night Football for, I believe it was several $1 billion a year now. And Apple TV stolen the MLS from them. So there's just a lot more of these big, deep-pocketed players that are taking the TV rights from them, and they've hitched their wagon entirely off of monetizing off of TV rights and live sports. And so, okay, we've got these big players. ESPN's a big player too, so they can compete on this a little bit. But I think where it becomes an issue is that they've gone so far down that route that that's the only place they can compete. And that's because they've really gotten rid of the news coverage element that their brand was originally built on. And I think their brand is deteriorating because of it. They're keeping folks, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, the people that are going to spark a Twitter firestorm with a hot take or get this short-term sugar spike on social media with controversial opinions. But the folks that have left that we mentioned earlier, these people that are leaving maybe they didn't have the viral Twitter moments, but they had devout followings and a devout audience. All of these people, Bill Simmons left to do The Ringer. Dan Le Batard left to do Meadowlark Media. Ariel Helwani left to build his own UFC media conglomerate as well. All of these individual personalities are building a big audience off of ESPN's back, then going solo and becoming almost this fractured landscape of niche competitors in their specific domain. And as ESPN cares less and less about in-depth coverage, analysis of this sport, and more just broadcasting live TV, live sports, and having commercials off of it, these individuals are starting to like chip away at their market on the other ground. So now ESPN are battling two fights. Big dogs up top, your Amazons, your Apple Plus, about how do we keep these live TV rights. And now they're battling on this with these like kind of ankle biter competitors where these individual creators are building audiences that are going to them now for basketball coverage, MMA coverage, regional coverage. And ESPN's kind of lost their identity, I think, because of that.
So now you've got ESPN, they've shed their analysts. Their analysts are now competing against them, kind of from the bottom. They're getting targeted by Amazon from the top. What are your thoughts around how they could turn this around if they absolutely had to? Because they have to.
And here's the thing, is because they're owned by Disney, I think that what they've lost is a broader, like a longer term perspective on what they should do. They keep needing to drive revenue and need to immediate targets. And that's why they've shed analysts that don't provide immediate revenue there.
Yeah.
What they should do, I think they've already made their bed. Because I think two things that they've been late to the game on stuff. They were the preeminent sports face, But what they screwed up is there's two really key components of how media consumption has changed and how this landscape has changed, and they've been laggards to it. One, streaming. They made a lot of their money off of cable subscriptions. People are cutting the cord. They were so late to building ESPN Plus, and they've been fraught with technological problems, inability to capture the rights to stuff, and the app itself has not taken off and is not driving the revenue they need, while other players have gone digital first. Think about the Netflixes of the world. They're even diving into live sports now because they've built the infrastructure to stream effectively. That's been a big one. Another one is that, unfortunately, I hate it, but sports betting has injected a whole bunch of new cash into the sports media landscape. It's part of all content coverage, media coverage now. And ESPN was late to the game on it. They didn't see it coming. Now that it's become legalized, and they've now belatedly tried to build their own ESPN bet app that no one uses. It's not profitable. And they're just doing catch up from a tech side now too. So I don't know if there's a solution out of this. Look, they're not going to die overnight, but they've lost their brand equity because they keep losing the creators and faces that people really truly resonate with. And at the end of the day, their prices are going to have to go up on playing live sports because Amazon has deep pockets, much deeper pockets than what ESPN has, and they're growing at an exponential rate. So I think the writing's on the wall for them.
Okay, well, I know nothing about sports media. I'm completely new to this space, but Adam, what do you think companies can learn from this type of situation so that they can avoid the type of fate that ESPN seems destined to?
That's a great question. I think, one, recognize threats. Recognize threats and recognize what value you bring to your audience. I think that by going all in on live sports, they kind of discredited the fact that a lot of what people loved about ESPN was some of the coverage, the analysis, and the people that were faces of the company. And they didn't think about that till it was too late. So I think it's like they put all their chips into one thing rather than understand, like, what do people love us for? What are people coming to us for? And I think the companies need to have foresight of how not only the landscape is changing, but also how your consumer, your buyer's needs are changing. So that's from the tech side of being late to streaming, being late to app development around sports betting, maybe shifting coverage away from what people really want. I think those are the big things, is understanding what your buyer wants now, but also what they're going to want in the future. And I think they failed to do that.
So listen to your buyers and do a competitive landscape analysis. How fitting for this episode.